Sorry, start again.
Okay.
Go.
These have had a chance to dry. So now I want to show you what they look like dry and what another technique you can do. The salt you just rub off when it's completely dry. I'm telling you, you need to wait till the next day to do this. It won't happen in the class period, okay? But the salt just leaves this kind of cool little dotty texture, okay? So if you like that, you can utilize it. You can utilize it in just controlled places. Say you have a flower with like a bunch of little pollen in the middle. You could just use the salt to do the little pollen effect, okay? And this is what the wet on wet looks like. It's kind of a tie-dye effect. And like I said, it looks cooler when it's dry, looks way better. You just kind of have to let it be, let the water do its thing, let the tie-dye effect kind of do its thing, okay? When you try and do too much, that's when it doesn't look as good. All right, now I want to teach you dry brushing. Dry brushing, it just means, it's not really all that dry. It just means that you can get detail and controlled detail by not using as much water. See, I don't have a big puddle of water in my palette. I've just barely dipped the tip in my little brush, swirled it around, and I got a lot of pigment, not a lot of water. This way I'm going to be able to paint some really controlled lines. And I'm wanting to mix up kind of like a maroonish brown. So I'm starting with some orange, adding some of this. This is called magenta, this cool red. You can call it pink if you want. We all know what you're talking about. But. And then I want it to be a little more brown. So I'm going to try this blue. It's probably going to look a little purple. Okay, and I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. So to make brown, you just need all three of your primaries. You need a red, a yellow, and a blue in varying amounts. Okay, so now that I have a nice little pile of paint there, because my brush isn't very wet and there's not a lot of water on it, I have a lot of control. I can get really thin lines. That's what I'm going to paint my veins on my leaf with. Okay, it's all about not having too much water, but I have a lot of pigment in there, so I get a nice concentrated color. And that is called dry brushing. That's how you get detail. Now, it's not so dry that it looks like this. You don't want it to, let's see, I need it to dry out. Once it starts doing this, looking all grainy and stuff, that's too dry, okay? You don't want it to be too dry. So if it starts to do that, just barely tip a little bit of water in there. And so you get a nice solid line, but it's not so wet that it's diluted or spreading all over the place. And using a little tiny brush, using the very point, you can get very, very small lines using that technique. And that's all.